Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm Norca, and from the video of this title, you guys can already tell that I'm here to talk to you guys about my plans for carpal tunnel surgery. I've been preparing for this surgery for about 2 months now, and I've been going online, trying to read on it, trying to see if anybody has shared their experience, trying to prepare for this, kind of getting an idea of what I'm going into. And I'm really surprised that I didn't find more information on YouTube. There's a lot of videos from doctors talking about the procedure, the process, and what patients can expect, but there's not a lot of videos, of personal experience from people going through this. And there's really nothing from a mom's perspective either. So I figured I would go ahead and do this because I just find it hard to believe that I'm the only person who is going through this and has a baby, or who's just going through this period. So I figured what I could do is kind of a mini series on it. I wanted to talk to you guys about what my experience has been like with carpal tunnel, and that's going to be this video. And then I'm going to do a second video where I'm going to go over how I've prepared my house, my kid, myself, and pretty much everything around me for surgery and post-surgery. And then I also want to go ahead and do a few videos sharing with you guys the day-to-day experience of what it's going to be like after surgery. I hope this helps you if you are dealing with carpal tunnel and you are pregnant or you are a mom. My sympathies are with you because it is very painful. You need your hands to take care of your baby, and that pain can definitely get excruciating. And I know if you're breastfeeding, if you're pregnant, there's so many times that you really cannot do anything or take anything, and you just kind of have to deal with the pain. And so I'm with you. I feel for you, and I hope you get better. So let me go ahead and share with you guys what my experience has been like with carpal tunnel, and then tell you guys how I got to this decision of having surgery. So I'm 30. I am a new mom, like I mentioned. I have a 5-month-old, and please excuse my hair. It is not cooperating with me today. When I was pregnant, right, I found out that carpal tunnel is a very common pregnancy symptom that a lot of women experience, but it tends to go away after pregnancy. So because you are swollen and retaining water, it's very common to get pain like on your wrist and the numbness on your fingers. But in my case, I've had carpal tunnel. So I want to say I've had carpal tunnel, or I've known about having carpal tunnel since I was about 25. So when I was pregnant and I had carpal tunnel and I went to the doctor did let me know that a big chance was for me, that some of the pain would diminish after giving birth, but it probably wouldn't go away. So I just wanted to share a little bit, I guess, of what I've gone through to normalize it a little. I think it's very normal and common, but maybe you think you're the only one. So I wrote a few notes down. So I found out I had it when I was about 24, 25. I was having a lot of pain in my hand, especially my right hand, which is my dominant hand. I had a lot of pain doing this motion, which is kind of the motion you do when you're holding a mouse, right? Or when you're typing away at a computer. And it made a lot of sense to me because my job consists of me typing all day, and then I'm doing an online graduate program. So when I'm done working, where I type all day, I go home to study and type away at night. So I was 25, right, with this pain. I finally decided to get some help, and I went to see a hand specialist. And they did a few things before determining that it was carpal tunnel. They did some x-rays, and they did a nerve test. And what the nerve test does is kind of shoots like electricity into different points in your arms, and it triggers responses in your fingers. And that's one of the things that they use to determine if you have carpal tunnel and just how severe it is. When I did the test, I told him that the pain was in my right hand, but he went ahead and did both. I think that's just the normal process, that they go ahead and do both. And he got the results back pretty fast, and what he let me know was that it was carpal tunnel, and it was actually worse on my left than my right. But because my right was my dominant, that's the one you were gonna feel it in the most. Right away, he suggested having surgery and just getting it out of the way. I was not open to the idea of surgery. I am not a fan of surgeries. I am a chicken for all intended purposes. And I just didn't want to go through surgery. You know, I thought about it and told him it's just not what I'm looking to do. What are my other options? So he told me that I could use splints, which are like kind of braces that you can put on and take off, that will keep your arm and your hand still, specifically your wrist, so that when you move your hands, you know, you're not hurting or you're not putting pressure right here, because this is where the carpal tunnel comes from. So he gave me the splints, and then he also told me the other option is to do a steroid shot. And the steroid that they use for this most of the time is cortisone. It's a cortisone shot that they inject right into your wrist where the pain happens. I was fine with the shot. I didn't think that was a big deal. It's painful, but it's manageable, and next to surgery, I'll take it. So I want to say that he told me that the shot wouldn't hurt, and I don't think it hurt, but it stings a little. He also let me know that this is not the common maintenance for carpal tunnel. That he does not recommend doing any more cortisone or any kind of steroid shot, because it's a good and bad thing, right? It helps you in one way and it kind of damages, I guess, the nerve in another way. So he told me, you know, I'm gonna go ahead and do this one because you've never done this before, but I don't recommend using that anymore. The shot was great. The shot pretty much took carpal tunnel away for about 2 years or so. And about 2 years and a half, I maybe started to feel the wrist pain again. And I remembered him telling me he was not going to give me another shot. So I kind of learned to manage the pain for a while. So that meant, you know, exercising, stretching out my hands, using hot and cold compresses. I would take a leave if possible. I would be very careful with what I would do. So I would make sure not to push or stress out my wrists, either working out or doing things, you know, like I knew if I was going to have a heavy day at work, then maybe take it easier on school, or maybe not be on my phone a lot. Maybe you do cold compresses and hot compresses that night. So for a long time, I really did manage it to the best of my abilities. But you still feel the symptoms. And one of the things that I would feel a lot was early in the morning. You, from sleeping all night, you could feel the numbness, right? You would feel a little bit of numbness in my fingers, or I would feel a little bit of numbness in my fingers, and my hands would also feel a little stiff, right? So one of the ways I could tell that that was happening is because early in the morning, my engagement ring just wouldn't fit. And I've heard it's normal, you know, for your body to kind of swell up a little bit at night. But this was just a lot. This was enough that you could feel it. So I usually couldn't put on my engagement ring right away. I would have to wait a little bit. I would have to kind of warm up my hands under hot water, move them, open them, close them, you know, kind of get them going so that the numbness, the stiffness, everything would go in. I would be all right. Again, as I'm going through all of these days, I'm still very mindful of it, and I would still try to be very careful about things that I did. Around this time, I could also tell that my grip strength had diminished. So it was getting harder to open certain things that were heavy, because that was pressure that you put on your hand and on your wrist. And so I would try to not do those things either. I would usually have somebody help me out. And that was okay. I just kind of dealt with it, you know, for pretty much all of that time that I knew that I had it. I did not want surgery. I knew I wasn't getting another shot. So I just kind of hoped, you know, I'll deal with it as long as I can. And then when I eventually need to have surgery, then I'll go ahead and have it. When I got pregnant, I don't think I noticed it at first. I think it developed quite early. but I don't think I realized what was happening till I was about 7 months. I was probably around 7 months, yeah, 8, 9, maybe 7 or 6 months. I was waking up in the morning and my hands were becoming extremely swollen and very stiff. At first, it happened casually that it would increase, right? And then it gradually started to happen more often. And then it just became a habit that in the mornings, I knew my hands were going to be stiff. I knew they were going to be in pain. And I just assumed that that was normal pregnancy swelling. So I didn't make a big deal. I didn't think anything about it. I didn't tell my doctor. And then around December, right, I gave birth in February. In December, I just started to feel weird in my hands. I don't know. Like they started to bother me, right? And my fingers particularly. It wasn't my wrist or my hand. It was my fingers. So one day we were moving to this house and I'm doing stuff like packing boxes, and my middle finger starts to have like a tingling sensation, like electricity is hitting it and hitting it and hitting it. And I thought, man, what did I do? I thought for like a second or for a while, I thought maybe sleeping, I did something. I move a lot when I sleep. Or maybe I moved, I did a gesture. And then that day I was trying to nail something out and I hit my finger against this wood board. And oh my gosh, it just felt like a shock of electricity coming into my fingers. And it just was persistent and it wouldn't go away. And it was so annoying. I just felt like electricity hitting my finger. Like anything would touch it. My other finger would touch it. My hand, my phone, anything would touch my finger. And it would be like little shocks of electricity going to it. And about 2 days after that, it affected my index finger. It affected my thumb and gradually the other hand. At that point, I had a doctor's appointment with my gyno, one of my checkups, and I told her what was going on, and I just didn't know what that was and what it could take. And she told me, you probably are dealing with carpal tunnel, which is very common, and it tends to go on your own, but go to your doctor. So my previous doctor from when I was 24 was no longer working in the office that I used to go to. So somebody recommended a new office to me and I went to check them out. And they were very honest and told me they were not going to do anything on me being pregnant, because I was about, at that point, maybe 8 months pregnant, I think. Maybe 7 months pregnant still. And so he told me that from the symptoms that I was describing to him and the pain I was feeling, he also thought it was carpal tunnel, and it was a normal thing for pregnant women to experience. And chances are that once I gave birth, this pain and all the swelling and numbness would go down and I would be okay. Again, a few more days passed. The swellingness increased, the stiffness in my hands increased, the electricity feeling in my hand increased. Everything was just increasing and it wasn't going away. Like before, it would happen in the morning and yes, it was painful, but then by the afternoon I was normal and I wasn't feeling that pain. That was no longer the case by January. Like I was just in a lot of pain. And that was literally my focus all the time. Like, how do I get through work and through my day and deal with this pain? So a good friend of mine let me know that my job provided paid medical leave. And, if I talked to my doctor, I could probably get a letter or something explaining what's going on and I could take some time off. More back and forth, trying to decide what to do, not to do. I finally caved and I decided to take the medical leave because I was in so much pain. I couldn't even focus on getting ready for Emily. I couldn't focus on my labor. I could barely get dressed. I mean, it was a workout. You're pregnant in your 7th or 8th month. You're huge. You're big. You're swollen. You're tired. You're going through a lot. And if you add to that carpal tunnel, you're not moving. Like, you don't want to do anything. And so I came to the realization that I really needed to focus on me and just kind of deal with what was going on and not try to work and stuff, because my daughter was gonna be here in about a month and I was just not in a good headspace and I was not feeling good. So I thought maybe taking time off from work would help. It didn't. As soon as I went on medical leave, it felt like the pain, the swelling, the stiffness, it felt like it all just got worse, stronger, harder. And I spent about a month at home pretty much with my hands up like this, trying to see if that would help the swelling go down, putting my hands in like ice, warm compress, trying to open and close my hand. And that was hard, guys. Like, I couldn't do this, okay? I could barely in the morning, like it would be like that in my hand and it would be swollen and huge, and I couldn't move it. I couldn't grab my hairbrush to brush my hair, let alone a hair dryer, iron, to get dressed. It would just hurt to do this, to grab anything. And so I want to say I spent a good month just at home trying to deal with this, trying to figure out how do I get over this so that when my daughter arrives, I'm okay and I can take care of her. And naive of myself, I thought, okay, maybe once I go into labor and pop the girl out, we're done. So the day comes and I go into labor, and it was a very long 23.5 hours labor. And my hands got worse. My labor was very long, and because I wasn't contracting, because I was GBS positive, because you cannot eat, I had a lot of fluids being given to me, and all the fluids are pretty much injected here, like all the little needles are put into your wrist, right? Or I guess the palm of your hand would be. And I remember being in the hospital and just feeling my hands getting even more swelling, like into them, getting more swollen, and I could feel them becoming stiff. And I remember asking the nurse if there was a way to move this from here to, I don't know, like my arm, somewhere else, because it was really bad. She told me, no, like once it's placed, we can't take it out, and that's usually where we put them, to just toughen it up. So I did, and it was a very long 24 hours, but we got through them. And I remember when I gave birth, I was really tired, and I could feel how much pain my hands were in, and I had probably blocked it out for a while because my focus was, let me get my daughter out, let me focus on her labor, and then I'll deal with my hands. So as soon as I popped her out, I asked the nurse, hey, can we take all of these things off? They're really bothering me. And she told me, no, we need to wait for like all the liquids to drain, like in the bags, everything needs to drain out. So I said, okay, fine, we'll keep on waiting. And then finally, when they took me to my actual room and another nurse came in, the bags had already drained. They weren't even connected to me anymore. So I told them, hey, can you take this out, because they're bothering me, there's no purpose to them. So she finally agreed, and she took out the needles, and I can tell you, I have never been in so much pain before. I could not do anything past this, okay? I couldn't do this, I couldn't do anything. My hand was just stuck like this, and that was heartbreaking because I just had my daughter, and we were trying to breastfeed, and I couldn't breastfeed her because I couldn't hold her. I could not stick her, like you need your hands to be strong. Yes, you're tired, but you need your hands to be strong to hold your baby, to stick her head and hold her and everything. And I could not do that for the life of me. I was in so much pain. I couldn't carry her. I couldn't change her diaper. I really couldn't feed her, so we had to give her formula for a while, and my fiance was pretty much changing her, feeding her, doing everything. They would kind of give her to me for a little bit, and I would hold her. I just kind of toughen up and hold the pain, and that was pretty much about it. So inside, guys, I was like building up this pain and fear, and I was scared, and I was so upset with myself because I felt like I was failing as a mom, and leaving the hospital, I remember like telling my parents, I have to go to my hand doctor to get this fixed. And so I left the hospital, right, or we were released, and I ran to my hand doctor, emotional, practically in tears, telling them I gave birth, I'm in a lot of pain, and I need you to help me because I need to take care of my daughter. So they were great, and they are still great, and they pretty much told me, the pain is going to leave gradually. It's not something that you have a kid and it leaves. And he offered me one more steroid shot to my wrist, and he said, I don't know if this is going to work because you just gave birth. There's still a lot of things in your body, and all of that has to come out, and the pain needs to go down on its own. So I'm gonna give you one shot, and then we're gonna wait at least 6 to 10 weeks to see how you're feeling. Long story short is that the shot didn't work. I went home, and by nighttime the pain was back, and it was brutal. So I remember getting home and just bursting into tears and feeling like a failure because I couldn't take care of my daughter because I could barely pick her up. So how was I supposed to be home with her for 4 months? About a week in, I pretty much told myself, grow up, grow a pair, get it done. And I started to do things in pain. I just had to toughen it up, hold the pain, and try to breastfeed her, try to change her, try to do things. And funny enough, that helped alleviate a lot of the pain and a lot of the swelling. And I think it's because I got my hands moving. I started to do everything that I wasn't doing because I thought if I didn't do it and I just left my hands alone, they would feel better. And they didn't. They were just the same. And then when I started to try and stick her on and breastfeed her and change her and carry her and do all these things, it was very painful in the beginning, but little by little the pain went away, and it became manageable. Now I still could not feel like anything on my finger, so I could not tell you the difference between holding my or holding, I don't know, a water bottle. Went back to the doctor. Because I was no longer like a recent postpartum and had already given birth, he had me do a nerve test, he had me do x-rays, he had me pretty much test everything out that they needed to test. And the results came back showing that I had developed severe carpal tunnel, and he immediately told me that his recommendation was surgery. Like he was not going to do any more cortisone shots either because he knew it just wasn't going to work. He also let me know that if this happened, this pregnancy, then chances are it was also going to happen with any future pregnancy. So he really recommended that I get the surgery because he just doesn't know what the pain would be like, or how badly this would get in another pregnancy. I told him, no, I do not want the surgery. Like, I have a baby. I just can't do that. This is not a good time for that. I just can't. So he has been very understanding. He told me he understood my situation. And then he told me, you know what, let's give it a few more months. Let's give it 4 months, 5 months. And let's see where you are. So I went back when my daughter was about 4 months. And he told me, how do you feel? How's it going? And I told him, it's there. It's not as good as I thought it would be. And the pain kind of comes and goes. So at that point, he let me know that, that's not what he wanted to hear. He had also hoped that I would be completely back to normal and that I would at least feel things in my fingers and not the electricity. And then he also reminded me that if I was going back to work and school, that the pain would probably start to get bad again, just because, you know, for a while there I hadn't been typing or going to school, so my hand or my wrist were not doing that repetitive movement. And that with a baby and school and work, he was expecting the pain to flare up, or the symptoms, all of them, to flare up at one point. And sure enough, they did. They did, and it has gotten really bad. And it'll hurt a lot when I'm feeding my daughter or carrying my daughter, and at the end of the day, I can barely do anything because my hands hurt and my wrists hurt, and so I just don't want to do something, or I don't want to do anything because I know it's gonna hurt. So after just a lot of deliberating and talking to my fiance and going back and forth, you know, we realized I had to do this because this is gonna be ongoing. And one of the issues that he mentioned is if you don't deal with it, you're kind of continuing to damage that nerve or that area. And so the more damage it has, the harder the recovery is, and the less chances you have of actually fully recovering. So, you know, we thought about all of this, and we planned and discussed how we could prepare for this surgery. And after all of the planning and talking, we agreed, you know, that I would go ahead and do it now in August. And so we've gone ahead and scheduled it, and it's actually going to be tomorrow, August 4th, that they're gonna go ahead and do the surgery. And let me tell you guys, I am very nervous being a new mom. I have a lot of responsibilities, and I just want to be able to be there for my daughter. And I honestly hope, you know, that this is the right choice and that this will help me in the future, at least, you know, long term. But it is not easy to do that. You know, the reason I've gotten to this point is because that's how much pain I've been in, and that's how afraid I am of having that pain continue while I'm a mother, and knowing also that, you know, I want to have more kids and I don't want to wait that long, and I just cannot go through such an awful experience the next time I have a baby. You know, not being able to take care of your kid right after they're born when they are the most vulnerable and need you is heartbreaking, and it will tear you down. So, you know, if you're going through this, guys, I feel for you and I'm with you, and I hope you can get the help that you need. And just know that, you know, you're not alone. I know I'm not the only person that's dealing with this. I have seen this in countless blogs of moms having to deal with this and debating what to do. And, you know, I'm trying to research and find out if there's other ways of helping out with this that are not surgery, other things that, you know, we can do to help us out. And I'm hoping I come across more help in the near future. But for now it's surgery for me. I know this is a really long video, and if you stuck with me through all of it, thank you. Please comment below, let me know if you guys have had any issues like this, or your experience with carpal tunnels, or issues with pregnancy or surgery, because I always like to hear and see what everybody else is going through. I always think sharing, you know, tends to build better communities. Bye guys, thank you for watching.